Keanu Reeves carried a secret for decades, one the world kept trying to guess. His name was always linked to hers, Sandra Bullock. Two halves of a story that never reached its final page. He stayed silent. She never pressed, but now, as he approaches 60 in a quiet, unexpected moment, Keanu finally speaks. And what he reveals changes everything. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments, what's your favorite Keanu Reeves movie of all time? The night was special. A studio set built just to celebrate Keanu's 60th birthday. Not over the top, not distant, intimate, real. Movie posters, behind-the-scenes clips, even a replica of the Matrix Reloaded couch filled the stage. Keanu walked into thunderous applause, wearing that humble smile, the one that always made him seem surprised by the love he receives. His hair a little longer, streaked with gray, dressed in black as always. A quiet figure, present yet almost ghost-like. The host, part comedian and part storyteller, greeted him with a grin. 60 years old and still not aging. Are you made of wax or drinking unicorn blood? Keanu chuckled, rubbing his beard. I survive on memes and nostalgia, he joked. The crowd roared. They laughed about the 90s, the wild action movies, and how Keanu always looked like he'd just run 10 miles in every scene. Clips played. Bloopers from Speed. Moments of Sandra Bullock doubled over with laughter. The audience erupted, nudging each other like they were teenagers again. Then the lights dimmed. A montage rolled. Tires screeching, Sandra at the wheel, Keanu in motion. Chemistry that never needed explanation, it just existed. Action sequences cut with stolen glances, soft smiles, unspoken tension. At first, the crowd cheered, but then it grew quiet. Something deeper was happening. The camera caught Keanu. He was smiling, nodding at familiar moments. But then his expression shifted. His eyes fixed on one image, a candid photo of him and Sandra laughing between takes. That photo, he said softly, that wasn't part of the film. That was real. The audience hushed. This wasn't an actor speaking. This was Keanu unguarded. He paused. People always said we had chemistry, and they were right. But for me, I was falling in love with her. The room froze. No drama, just honesty. I never told her. Not once. The silence was reverent. Keanu continued. I told myself it wasn't the right time. That work came first, or maybe I was just afraid. The montage ended on a freeze frame. Keanu and Sandra side by side, young and timeless. The host leaned in. Did she ever know? Keanu shook his head. No. And then came the moment, the one he had carried for 25 years. I fell for Sandra during Speed. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't about romance on screen. It was us, laughing at the same things, sitting in silence without awkwardness. That kind of comfort is rare. He smiled faintly. She noticed people. Not just me. Crew members. Strangers. She'd lift spirits quietly without asking for attention. And when you've lived with a lot of darkness, being near that kind of light, it changes you. The host moved, asked gently, did she ever give signs she felt the same? Maybe, Keanu said. Sometimes I thought so. But I always second-guessed it. Told myself it was just kindness. And at the time I was carrying so much loss. My daughter had died. Jennifer. He stopped. The audience held their breath. When you lose people like that, you start to believe love is just something the world takes from you. So I stayed quiet. I thought I was protecting her or protecting myself. But the truth is I was scared. The host whispered, so you just let it go. Keanu nodded. I carried it for 25 years. The room was still. This wasn't about a Hollywood star anymore. It was about a man finally unburdening himself. The host asked, why now? Keanu's sad smile held weight. Because silence doesn't protect you forever. It just buries you. Then he added quietly, there's something else I never told her. I wrote her a letter. The crowd stirred. Not a love letter. Not exactly. I wasn't asking for anything. It was just the truth I'd never spoken. I wrote it after the second Speed movie didn't happen, when life drifted us apart. But I never sent it. The host asked, do you still have it? Keanu nodded. I do. I've kept it in a drawer for 15 years. The weight of his words hung in the room. For Keanu Reeves, the secret wasn't about a movie. It was about love. Unspoken, unshared, but unforgettable. He leaned slightly toward the camera. Not for effect, but as if speaking to someone who might truly be listening. Maybe it was time he finally read it out loud. The lights dimmed. The studio shifted into something quieter, almost sacred. Everyone in the room seemed to understand without a word. We'll hold this moment together. Keanu didn't reach for a letter. He didn't need to. You could tell he'd memorized it. Or maybe it had simply lived in him too long to forget. He closed his eyes, and when he spoke, it was almost like a prayer. Sandra, you probably don't remember the exact day I fell for you, but I do. It wasn't dramatic. You weren't dressed up. You were holding a sandwich, teasing me about forgetting my lines. Then you laughed. And it hit me. How rare that sound was, not just your laugh, but what it did to me. I didn't know how to say it then. I didn't think I deserved to. You were sunlight. I was surviving shadows, so I stayed quiet. I told myself it was enough just to be near you, to make you laugh, to protect you on screen, even if I didn't know how to in real life. I've lived with that silence. Maybe I always will. But you should know you were the closest thing I had to peace. You didn't know it, but you were my quiet place. His voice didn't waver, but the weight behind it carried through the room. I never sent it because I thought I had time. The audience sat still. The host sat still. The silence wasn't awkward. It was sacred. Keanu exhaled, his gaze no longer fixed on the crowd but somewhere deeper, in memory. People call me private, and they're right. But sometimes silence isn't privacy, it's protection. When you lose people early, your mind starts believing anything you love will be taken. My daughter never got to cry her first cry. Jennifer, my anchor, my everything, she left too. After that, love felt like a door I couldn't open anymore. I got used to being alone. It was easier, predictable. I thought I was protecting others, but really I was protecting myself from the idea I didn't deserve happiness. Then Sandra came into my life. And it wasn't just attraction. It was clarity. She had this way of making things make sense. I thought I had to be whole before I could love someone like her. But maybe she didn't need perfect. Maybe she just needed someone to be present. And I wasn't. The room stayed hushed. People visibly moved. There was a day we filmed a big stunt, tension everywhere. I was pacing, nervous. Sandra handed me gum and said, "Don't forget to chew, it helps." That small kindness, I remember it more than the stunt. The host leaned in. "Did you ever come close to telling her?" Keanu nodded, once in her trailer. She was sipping tea, feet tucked under her, a blues track playing. She looked at me and said, "You're not as serious as people think." I almost told her then, but I didn't. I thought, later. But later never came. He paused, voice steady but heavy. I wrote the letter after watching an interview she gave. She said, "I think the people who make me feel safe are the ones I never have to impress." And I realized, that's what she gave me, safety. So I wrote it. Words I never planned to send. Just truth. The host asked if he remembered what it said. Keanu nodded. "You probably never knew this, but being near you made me feel human again. You never asked me to be anyone but myself. And I wish I'd told you how much that meant. I didn't send it because I thought silence was safer than rejection. Or regret." He looked straight into the camera. "I used to think time would wait. Another chance, another day. But time doesn't wait. It doesn't pause for grief or fear or silence. I spent years thinking love had to be earned through healing, that I had to fix myself first. But maybe love is what helps you heal." The audience stirred, some wiping tears. The host asked gently, "What would you say to her now?" Keanu didn't hesitate. That I never stopped caring. That I always wondered what might have happened if I just said it. That I'm sorry, not for loving her, but for not having the courage when it mattered. And maybe I'm still carrying that letter even now. The host. "Do you ever think of sending it?" Keanu's eyes softened. "No, but maybe I can let her hear it like this. Like now, Sandra, there's no agenda here. No unfinished business. Just a truth I kept too long in a world that often felt too loud. You were my quiet place." No one moved. Not even the host, his eyes wet with unshed tears. Keanu leaned back, lighter now. Not because anything had been fixed, but because something had finally been released. I kept that letter buried for 15 years. Maybe it's time I finally read it out loud. The lights dimmed further. The room held its breath. "Dear Sandra," he began. "I don't know how to start without sounding late. But maybe late is still okay. This isn't a confession. It's not a request. It's just something I should have said long ago. You were the calm in the middle of my storm. You made me feel safe when I'd forgotten what that felt like. I thought I had to be healed before I could love someone like you. But the truth is, I just loved you as I was. I thought silence was safer. But now I know silence is the thief. If I could go back, I'd simply say, I think I feel something more. I don't expect anything now. I just need you to know you were loved quietly, patiently, without condition. The words lingered. The audience remained still, reverent. Keanu lowered his eyes, then lifted them once more, steady and calm. Maybe love doesn't need to be returned to matter. Maybe it just needs to be spoken. He'd long forgotten how to believe in anything like this. Keanu lowered his eyes, then looked up again. You didn't know it, he said softly. But you were my quiet place. He exhaled, like setting down a weight he'd carried for years. The host sat in silence, moved open. Keanu leaned back, his calm voice trembling with release. I never sent the letter because I thought I'd have another chance. The silence stretched. Then he added, but something happened recently. Something small, but it woke me up. The host whispered, what was it? Keanu looked sideways. We saw each other again briefly at a benefit. She looked the same, brighter even. We hugged and it was warm. And then it was over. He drew a long breath. Later that day I got a call. A health scare. Nothing fatal, but enough to remind me, life doesn't wait. The audience didn't move. I went home and rewatched an old interview of hers. I don't even know why. Maybe searching for something. And in it she said, Keanu, I always thought he was the one that got away. The host leaned forward. She said that? Keanu nodded, his voice unsteady. She did. And I never replied. Until now. The studio felt suspended in time. Keanu sat in silence after finishing the letter. He seemed lighter, but also older. Not in years, but in weight. The host finally asked gently, you said something made you realize you might be running out of time. What was it? Keanu nodded. It started with a conversation. About 6 months ago at a charity gala, Sandra was there. Neither of us expected it. We laughed when we realized we were seated just 2 tables apart. He smiled faintly. It had been years, but she looked at me like no time had passed. That's who she is. She makes you feel like you belong. He paused, remembering. We talked. Weather, food, small talk. But underneath it all, there was a silence. A silence that carried a question. A what if. The host blinked. A silence? Keanu nodded. Yes, shared silence. The kind that says more than words. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. When we hugged goodbye, something in me felt unfinished. Not unsaid, unfinished. The room was still. That night, I got a call from my doctor. Routine blood work. Nothing serious, just an irregular rhythm in my heart. Manageable, but in that moment I realized, this body won't last forever. He looked straight at the host. It wasn't fear. It was clarity. The host's eyes shone. That's when I realized, Keanu said, we wait as if life owes us time, but it doesn't. I'd been waiting for decades. Waiting until I healed. Waiting until the timing was right. Waiting to feel worthy. And then I understood there's no such thing as ready. There's only now. The audience held their breath. So I did something I hadn't in years. I went searching. Old interviews, photos, anything to remember how it started. How we looked at each other before the world knew our names. A quiet laugh. I found a clip from the speed press junket. We were joking around. And then for just a second she looked at me, a look I'd forgotten. And I asked out loud, why didn't I say something then? He shook his head. You think you have time. Another dinner, another project, another chance. And then you hear your heartbeat skip, and suddenly all the things you never said are louder than everything you ever did. The host leaned in. What happened after that? Keanu exhaled. I turned off the lights, tried to write a new letter, but the words felt forced. Too late. That's when I realized this wasn't about rewriting the past. It was about telling the truth now, even if it doesn't change a thing. He looked at the audience. Because truth matters, even if no one answers. The host asked, and when she said you were the one who got away, what did that feel like? Keanu smiled faintly, eyes distant. Bittersweet, beautiful, painful. She said it with this little smile like she didn't realize how much it meant. That's Sandra. She gives without measuring the weight of what she offers. His voice softened. I thought I was protecting her by staying silent. But maybe I was just protecting myself from the fear that I wasn't enough. The host exhaled. So now you've told the story. What's next? Keanu didn't answer right away. Then he looked into the camera. Not dramatic, just steady. There's one more thing I haven't said. This isn't about a grand gesture, or a second chance, or even closure. It's about truth. The audience leaned forward. He took a breath. Sandra, if you're watching this, I want to say something I never said. I thought I had to be healed before I could love. That I had to be whole before I was worthy. But love doesn't work like that. Real love doesn't ask for perfection. It only asks you to show up. He paused, and I didn't. Every word carried the weight of years. I thought the love I felt had to stay hidden like a secret too fragile for daylight. But the longer you protect love from being spoken, the more it turns into something else. Distance. Memory. Silence. His voice dropped. Sandra, I don't want anything from you. Not an answer, not a step forward. I just want you to know I loved you, not with fireworks or grand speeches, but in the quiet, in the stillness, in the way you held your coffee with both hands, in the way you looked at people when no one was watching, in the silence of that trailer, when the world finally stopped spinning. That was home. The audience stirred, many wiping their eyes. Maybe love doesn't always arrive to be lived. Maybe some love is meant to be carried, not acted on, but honored. And I've carried you through grief, through joy, through years I forgot myself, but never forgot you. He breathed deeply. I forgive myself for not being ready. And I thank you for never asking me to be more than I was. The studio air felt different, lighter, as if something had been released. The host finally asked, Why now? Why here? Keanu looked over clear-eyed. Because silence doesn't protect us. It only separates us. I spent my life avoiding need, avoiding risk. And in doing that, I missed the chance to love out loud. He turned to the audience. If you love someone, don't wait. Not for perfect timing, not for the right words. Just tell them. Even if your voice shakes. Even if nothing comes of it. Because love isn't about what you get back. It's about what you give away. The host whispered, You carried it for 25 years? Keanu nodded. I did. And maybe now I don't have to anymore. The room was still. He smiled gently. Love, even unspoken, still changes us. Then, looking into the camera, Sandra, if you ever wondered whether I saw you, the answer is yes. I saw everything, and I loved it all. The audience rose, not in applause, but in reverence. Keanu didn't bow, didn't wave. He just sat there, present, lighter, whole.